Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. And in this episode, we're going to discuss the heated exchange between John Harbaugh and the players and head coach Mike Vrabel for the Tennessee Titans. In this past week's loss, the Baltimore Ravens lost to the Tennessee Titans. Got heated before the game, as well as kind of, I guess a very brief, not even handshake or greeting before between the two coaches after the game, when traditionally, obviously, you go up and shake the other coach's hand. They kind of had a brush off almost of sorts. So, Jimmy, we weren't really sure what exactly was being said during the exchange or what was what was going on, but it was clearly fiery. But later they found that there was a microphone that was able to catch some of the exchange. And what did you hear on that clip?
Yeah, so just for those of you that might be vague, I don't think there's very many of you, but those of you that might be vague on the scenario, of course, like Glenn said, it looked like they were on, the middle of our field. Of course, we're in M&T Bank Stadium, and they as in the Titans players, they gathered as a team. Some people have said that they were cleaning their shoes off. Some people have said that they were like kicking up the dirt and like messing up the field as if to scrape the logo or whatever the case may be. And John's initial altercation, of course, he walked out, notably by himself, John Harbaugh, that is, to address them. And Malcolm Butler, of course, threw some colorful language back at John. Mm-hmm. And then Vrabel came out. And then so that altercation started. And refs, of course, got between him and Vrabel. But essentially, John said, look, it's disrespectful. And then you can hear Vrabel saying to the refs, tell him to go coach a game. And then Harbaugh saying it's disrespectful, like calling him back, saying, calling Vrabel back as he starts to walk away, saying, hey, it's disrespectful. And then, of course, Vrabel just tells him, go coach. So I have a lot of things to say about this. It frustrates me on a lot of levels. One, because you want to talk about disrespect. Vrabel brushes off John Harbaugh and can't even have a man-to-man conversation with him like he's not worth the respect. John Harbaugh is a Hall of Fame coach. He's going to be one of the most decorated coaches of all time by the end of his career. He is worth a conversation. You can't brush him off like, go coach. You do that to a rookie head coach. You do that to some guy that's a perpetual loser. You do that to Marvin Lewis, right? Like, you don't do that to John Harbaugh. I'm sorry. So you're a punk for that, Mike Vrabel. I think that John Harbaugh deserves a man-to-man conversation when you know good and well, number one, your team knew what they were doing, and so did you. And it's not something they've been doing every week, or else the Ravens would have known about it. It's not like it's something specific that they did in this pregame that set John off. I think John's been around the league long enough to know the unwritten rules of football. He was born with a football in his hand and a headset on his head. Like, John, if anyone has spent more hours working with around football, I would be shocked to meet them. So it really bothered me that he couldn't come up to John because John wasn't yelling. He wasn't overly flustered. He was defensive, but he just wanted to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And he brushed him off like he's a child. I'm sorry, Mike Vrabel, but you have not done enough in this league to not warrant a conversation with what I consider to be a lock Hall of Fame coach in John Harbaugh. So that's how I feel about it. The reason I have my background up today is because John Harbaugh's got one of these, Mike Vrabel. What do you got in your hardware as a coach? I understand you're a 3-time Super Bowl champion as a player. This is your third year as a coach. You're like baby Yoda at this point. So, like, give it some time, have a conversation with him and let it be over with. But to me, I hate that. I think Vrabel is the ringleader. He's just a big brother to these players more than a coach. And so I think he eggs them on. I think he knew exactly what they were doing. I think he's a freaking jerk for it. I just don't like it. It showed me lack of decorum and lack of class. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair enough. I try and, I'm obviously a huge Ravens fan, but I try and take my fandom out when I can. It can be harder sometimes than others. But for this one, I tried to put, kind of flip the uniform around and see how I would feel if the names were switched and things were the other way around. I just don't know what Vrabel could have said there in that exchange that if I was a Titans fan or a player, I wouldn't have been like, man, you know what, just stick up for your guys. I mean, I think at that point, I don't know what was said. I don't know why the players were doing what they were doing. I don't really know. I like you. I heard some of the same stuff about the wiping off of the cleats on the logo. If they were doing that, I'm not really sure why any of them would do that, because we all know if they were a free agent next year and the Ravens gave them more money than the Titans, they would be wearing the Ravens. So it's
Right.
I don't know what their thoughts were on that or what they were doing, but either way, it was something enough to rub John the wrong way. Um,
Well,
but
let me ask you this. Do you
yeah.
think that Vrabel knew about it? That's one of my core issues. Do you think that Vrabel knew what they
I
were
don't
going to
think
do?
Well, to me, I don't think it was premeditated. I just think that they were probably out there having a good time and just probably being kind of silly. And then John saw it and said something, and then they got, defensive, and then things escalated quickly from there. But I seriously doubt, I don't even know why they would be doing it. So the fact that if it would be to think it would be premeditated, that would really surprise me, because like I said, they would all certainly be in a Ravens uniform if their contract was up and the Ravens gave them some money. So I don't understand why you would ever do that. I think it would only hurt you in the future. If you're looking for a job, that's just one less team that may consider you. Certainly if John was still here, that's one less team. So I'm not really sure the motive. So no, I don't think Vrabel really knew what was going on. He's probably a very busy man at that point. He's got a lot on his plate at that point, preparing for a game. And he was probably just like, I don't know what's going on, but this is just nonsense. And then, I don't love that he brushed off Coach, but I could, if the roles were reversed, I'd probably be like, just brush him off too and just say, forget about it. Like he's probably just thinking, why is John so fired up about what they're doing? They're probably out there being silly, just trying to have a good time or, get hyped for the game.
But don't you think it's fair to say that if John was heated about it,
Mm-hmm.
every other coach would be like, so if you want to reverse it, okay, we're in Tennessee and we're doing that. You don't think Vrabel, Mr.
Yeah,
Meathead himself,
he
is
would
coming out
be.
to the middle of the field? You know
Yeah,
what
he
I
would
mean?
be. But but if Vrabel was saying, John, that's disrespect, what do you think? What would you be think? You would be
Well,
hopeful as a Ravens fan that John would say back to him.
and this is what I think would happen if the roles were reversed. I
All
think
right.
John would have given him the time of day because he's a classy guy. Look, John and Mike Tomlin have what I consider the most heated and hated rivalry in the NFL.
Mhm.
Have you heard them say anything foul about one another?
No.
Nothing but class and respect for the organizations. As much as we don't like each other on the football field, they can still be respectful as
But
men.
Vrabel was respectful when he was on camera after the game. He said he had a lot of respect for him and said a lot of nice things. He didn't know he was on camera or on mic when he was caught brushing him off. So I think
Well, I
if we
guess who
were
you really are is shows
well,
off
exactly.
camera.
But I think if we had a secret microphone on Mike Tomlin on some certain exchanges, he may have some colorful language for John too in the heat of battle. But I don't think that. To me, I don't know what Vrabel should have said there. Maybe he could have been like, "All right, look, I'll go talk to the guys. I'll see what's going on. I'll see what happened." He could have said that, and I'll give you that.
But maybe it's not about saying anything. Maybe it's about just you show
Not brushing
respect by
him
hearing
off.
him. Yeah, just hear him out. Like
Okay, that's
hear him.
fair.
He's one of the the Ravens are what I consider to be one of the best as far as like they're one of the model franchises in the NFL. John has shown how to be a
But at
successful
this
coach in the
point, they're
NFL.
not friends. They're not friends. They're going into the
Yeah,
heat of battle. This isn't time to be friendly. You can be
right.
friendly after the game, but at that point, you're not looking for really. I mean, maybe if it was a couple hours before the game, but that was like right before kickoff, was it not?
And yeah, and this is the other thing I'll say. I still think that giving him the time of day is a classy move. At least
Yeah, he may
something
not
that
have been the
John has
most classy.
deserved.
I agree that. I agree
It's
there.
something that John has earned.
But he's a linebacker we're talking about here. This guy is a linebacker who still probably has a lot of that player in him, even though he's the coach. And he probably, that's probably how he was as a player. He was probably that fiery guy that was getting into it in pregame before, with the other
Right.
players and coaches. And it's like you always say, Jimmy, a tiger doesn't change his stripes, right?
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
who he is.
You're
And I
right.
bet
You
if
can
you're a
see
player or a fan of his, you probably love it about that guy. But if you're the
right.
opposing player or fan, you don't like it.
As a gratuitous shot, you're absolutely right. I mean, think about he played for Belichick, who was a chronic cheater, the unsanctioned practices, and just apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And look,
So
he
it
gave
is
it
what
back
it
to
is.
Belichick too. Remember, he
Yeah.
exposed, he did certain little things.
Now
that
the rule
Belichick
play
didn't
is
do.
fine, but I mean like the blatant cheating.
Right. Yeah. No, that's
That's lousy. So say what you want. Vrabel, get yourself some hardware as a coach and then you can maybe brush John
And you know
Harbaugh
what?
off.
I hate that you keep making me defend him, but let's be honest. In the first 3 years as head coach, he's been pretty good. He's 2-1 in the playoffs. He's got just under, as you'll say, 60% win percent.
Just under 60% win percentage. John
John
with
has
a
been more
much
successful, no doubt, as a
yeah.
head coach.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you look, I mean, it's not like Vrabel's a slouch here. It's not like he's
No.
Freddie Kitchens we're talking about.
No. Where is Freddie Kitchens, by the way? But this is the other thing I want to bring up is that isn't he with the Giants or
I don't
whatever?
know. I think so, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, good job, Giants. Either way, the other thing I want to say that I want to spend some time on really quickly that's important here. Why on earth was John Harbaugh, the 50-some-year-old coach, the only one taking offense to it? You can't tell me that your coach is the most competitive and the most fiery and the most on alert, like you said, right before kickoff. What's going on here? Why was even when there was time, even when Malcolm Butler started saying things to John, I only saw in the camera another coach who looked older than John out there with him. What's happening here? Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but I don't know all the details. I don't know if the for whatever reason the players had ran back into the locker room right before the intro. I don't even, are they still even doing introductions? I don't even know when you have no fans in the stands if you're still doing introductions, but
Yeah, it's
I
true.
don't know where the players were. I would like to think if they were in earshot of the situation that they would have immediately came to John's defense. And if they were and didn't, then I'd be disappointed in those players, because I think you're right. I don't think you want your tough guy to be your head coach. I mean, it's pretty cool that he is. I like that he's standing up for the team, but you don't want him to be the guy standing there jawing back and forth with Malcolm Butler. You'd hope that one of your players is doing so. But it is what it is. Maybe they weren't in earshot. They had no idea what's going on. That could very well be the case. But yeah, I guess we'll never know unless we hear some more or get another mic or get another camera view coming out.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
absolutely. And this last thing I'll say about this is that all you Titans fans are going to slam me in the comments. Totally fine, because I'm not going to win the argument on recent history. You're 2-0 against us. You own our backsides in recent history. But if your franchise is lucky enough, and Mike Vrabel is lucky enough to have as much success in his next 10 years, because John is 13 years in, he's only 3 years in, that John has had, you will be absolutely what am I trying to say here? You'll be lucky to find yourself in that situation. John is an example of consistency, of success, of how to run a franchise as a coach, not, as a GM or front office like that. You'll find yourselves lucky to have that type of success. So that's all I got to say. John Harbaugh is a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, deserves the respect of a conversation, not to be brushed off like a child.
All right, fair enough. Well, just like Jimmy said, let us know what you guys think. Leave a comment. Was Vrabel out of line? Was John Harbaugh too fired up? Did you think he needed a little backup? And we're a little bit disappointed that he didn't have that. Let us know what you guys think, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.